Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Nothing But Sports with Kent Sterling for Monday, October 28th, 2019. Brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill is simply the best dentist in the world. Call him. Make an appointment. Do it today, 317-849-2933. Let's talk about sports. My apologies to Tom Allen. Tom Allen, Peyton Ramsey, Fred Glass, all of these people have fallen under my fire over the past couple of years because I felt they weren't good enough at their jobs for Indiana football to figure out a way to become relevant in the national conversation. Well, look at Indiana. They're 6-2, and all of a sudden, Indiana is bowl eligible before Halloween for the first time in over a quarter century. Tom Allen, I thought, was kind of a celebratory nut, jumping up and down on the sidelines at all different parts during the game. When you celebrate what's happened, your mind is locked into the past. It's not thinking about what's coming, and I think really good coaches think about what's coming. Well, you know what? Tom Allen has proven that he's a pretty damn good coach. You don't go 6-2 without being a good coach. You're 3-2 in the Big Ten. All they need to do, Indiana does, is split their final four games, and with games against Northwestern and Purdue, that is a distinct possibility. All of a sudden, Indiana will guarantee themselves a season without 6 losses for the first time since 1994. And that's just incredible to me. They may play in a real bowl, not like the Farmer Fran Bowl out in Cali or the New Era Pinstripe whatchamacallit Bowl in New York City. They may play at a bowl that like resonates, has some kind of historical background for us, and something that Indiana's going to take pride playing in. I think that's fantastic. Good for Tom Allen, who has shown in his third full year as the head coach at Indiana that he's capable of getting that thing turned around. When Fred Glass hired Tom Allen as a head coach minutes after he fired or removed Kevin Wilson from that position, I thought, man, you don't even go on a national search? What are you doing? I thought maybe Fred was thinking cheap, right? Or was blinded by what he saw as the guy who was clearly the anti-Kevin Wilson. Tom Allen is not going to get mixed up in some of the stuff that Kevin Wilson was mixed up in. You know that. I know that. We all know what I'm talking about. But you know what? Fred Glass, vindicated in hiring Tom Allen. Good for him. Peyton Ramsey over the weekend. He played a great game at Northwestern and led Indiana to this win. Good for him. He doesn't have a fastball, but he was good enough to go 27 of 40 for 351 and hit Whop Phillier. You can't stop the Whop. 14 catches, 178 yards. That's phenomenal. Well, you know what? If you can do that, you don't need a fastball. So what? He can't throw a football 80 miles an hour. If you can have that kind of a day on the road against Nebraska, you know what? What the hell? I'm all with Peyton Ramsey. I'm with Michael Penix too. I didn't think you could win with Peyton Ramsey. Wrong. I apologize. Very good for Indiana football. They've got Northwestern coming up this weekend. That game is going to be a night game. What will the students do now faced with a decision to go see a relevant football team at 6-2 and a team playing to upgrade their level of bowl, right? And put themselves in a position to have a winning record in the Big Ten for the season if they can then follow that up with a win against either Penn State, and let's face it, they're not beating Penn State. Michigan, they could get Michigan, or more likely, Purdue. Are they going to choose to go to Memorial Stadium and watch football, or are they going to follow the time-tested tradition of Indiana students on a Saturday and go to the bars? I think that's going to be interesting. I'm going to watch a crowd and see if maybe the success of this team has lit a bit of a fire under the Indiana fan base, a long dormant fire, for God's sake. It's like Mount Vesuvius hadn't erupted since, like 76 BC or whatever. But you know what? Maybe there's still some passion smoldering underneath that we haven't seen for these many years. They could wind up with 9 wins. They've done that twice in program history. They've never won 10. If they win 2 more, they'll be playing a bowl game to get a ninth win, and that would be the third time, like I said, following teams in 1945 and 1967. This is quite something for Indiana football. Congratulations to everybody there, and my apologies to everybody there. Clearly, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I thought that Tom Allen was kind of a high school coach, a guy who coached at Penn Davis as a head coach, and that was kind of him as a head coach, kind of a high school guy. But you know what? Indiana playing really good football right now, playing winning football, having won 2 consecutive games on the road in the Big Ten. When was the last time that happened for Indiana? I don't know. I can't stop kind of giggling to myself about this. That's how happy I am that Indiana is winning these games. How about the Colts yesterday, a 15-13 win? And what's interesting to me about this is that Frank Reich, right, with the Colts, where they were on the field, they could have tried, and where they were with the clock. They kicked the field goal with 22 seconds left. They had no timeouts, but they could have tried to throw a quick pass or two and put Vinatieri in better field position to attempt that game-winning field goal. And what they did was kind of sit on the ball and very happily have Vinatieri roll out there for a 51-yarder that won the game for the Colts. Frank Reich, in his post-game comments, said, you know what, no, we weren't going to try to get more yards. We were really comfortable with Vinny at 51. You know, he's not years old. He's not 51 years old, but from 51 yards away, we're really comfortable right there. Well, you know what? The Bears did virtually the same thing as they played yesterday. They had a chance at a game-winning field goal from, 41 yards, right? 41 yards. And he was asked kind of the same question. Did you think about improving field position so you gave Pinheiro a better opportunity to make that kick? And he got very salty. He was like, no, we don't do. What do you do? What do you do if there's a fumble or an interception or blah, blah, blah? And the reporter said, well, you lose. That's right, you lose. Matt Nagy has got to figure out how to deal with media in the same way that Frank Reich does. Because Frank Reich's answer, had Vinatieri missed the kick, would not have mirrored Nagy's at all. These were guys who made the same decision. Frank Reich today is a hero. Nobody's talking about the Colts on ESPN, by the way. They are talking about the Bears on ESPN, and they're talking about the Bears on ESPN in large part because Nagy was miserable during that post-game interview. Anyway, the guys did the same thing, and if you got a kicker who can make, you look like a genius. You got a kicker who can't, you know what? You're not a genius, you're a goat. And yesterday, Nagy was a goat, Reich a genius. So the Indianapolis Colts, despite having a point differential of 7, positive 7, they're 5-2. Every team in the AFC South has a positive point differential. Every team in the AFC South is at 500 or better. The much maligned AFC South right now looks like a pretty damn good or a pretty damn good division. All right, so there's your AFC South, and the Colts with a half-game lead over the Texans and a game-and-a-half lead over both the Titans and the Jaguars. Jaguars look like they're the real deal. So you've got the Steelers this weekend. That is a pick'em game as it stands right now. The Steelers, they play tonight. They're going to be on short rest, but they're going to be at home. The Colts, they're going to travel to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, kind of a tough place to win. But, they got a chance because they're figuring out ways to win. Right? They're not dominating anybody. Every single game through these 7 in which the Colts are 5-2, every single one of these games has been decided by 7 or fewer points. So they're all one-possession games, and the Colts have figured out ways to get these things done. They haven't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They haven't forced a lot of turnovers. They started the season kind of gashing people with the run. Didn't get that done yesterday. The Colts just kind of figuring out ways to win when they're not dominating because of matchup difficulties or because maybe of a little bit of malaise or, maybe some dings are starting to pile up for the offensive line. None of those guys on the offensive line has missed a single snap. So maybe that's what the deal is. But as long as they keep winning, we're not going to spend a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror trying to figure out why. right? We're going to look forward and try to figure out how they're going to win this coming week. The next game against the Dolphins, you're going to win that game. The Dolphins stink on ice. So if you can beat the Steelers, then you got the Dolphins. You've got 7-2 going into that game at Lucas Oil Stadium against the Jaguars, where you can kind of eliminate the Jaguars from competition in the AFC South. And the more times you can win games that are going to put down your opponents and remove them from competition in your division, the better chance you got for really good things. If the Colts win this coming Sunday against the Steelers, they will have completed the second quadrant of this season at 4-0. So 2-2, 4-0, and if you can go 3-1, 3-1, you're talking about 12-4, and you're talking about probably a first-round bye and an AFC South championship. That'd be a hell of a thing for your Indianapolis Colts, wouldn't it be? Yes. The Pacers, they've got Detroit tonight in a rematch of the season opener last week. That season opener, of course, at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. We remember what happened in that game. Luke Kennard with a career-high 30 in that game. And you know who's defending him through a lot of that game? Edmund Sumner. You know who's going to be defending him a lot tonight? Edmund Sumner, because Jeremy Lamb is not going to be able to play. And that is not a good thing for the Indiana Pacers, because Edmund Sumner does not look like he knows where to be deployed or where he should stand defensively. And that's not good. He is an otherworldly athlete, but can he defend somebody? Last week, he was unable to defend Kennard. Hopefully tonight, he can get that job done. Maybe last week, he learned from his mistakes and he's figured some things out. He's getting a hell of an opportunity with the Indiana Pacers right now. A kid who is really suffering from an injury-littered past at Xavier that the Pacers took in the second round, nursed him back to health, and here he is with an opportunity to contribute. Is he going to be able to do that? We find out tonight as the Pacers take on the Detroit Pistons. All right, Chicago Cubs baseball. You know, and by the way, the World Series has gone from very, very enjoyable for me to really not very enjoyable, as the Nationals have lost the last three. That's not good. The Nationals, they were 17-1 against winning the World Championship. That was about 6 weeks ago. I told you, I was like, this is a hell of a bet, because I think they're going to the World Series. And if you go to the World Series, you're about a 50% likely winner in that World Series. So 17-1, 1-1. All right, you get 17-1 or 1-1 odds, really, at 17-1 prices. And that's a hell of a thing. But after starting this series up 2-0 with 2 wins in Houston, they really shat the bed in Washington and have lost the last 3. So now, tomorrow night and Wednesday night, it's win or go home. Take that long dirt nap if you're the Washington Nationals. So let's hope that they can get it rolling tomorrow night and keep it rolling on Wednesday night. Cubs, as I teased, they introduced David Ross today in a press conference. And Ross had the following to say: that the fun-loving Grandpa Rossy image is overblown. He will build trust and respect. Every incoming manager of anything says that, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, whatever. We are going to build trust and respect within the staff. Okay, good. Do that. It's a lot harder to do than it is to say. But I think that David Ross is going to be able to get that done, because I think he's a man of his word. And I think that he's a guy who, when he was a player, was kind of a guy who was going to go red ass from time to time. And when he didn't like things, he was going to tell people he didn't like things. And they were going to respond to that adversity by starting to do it the way that Rossy liked. So I think that that's what's going to happen for the Cubs this year. And he won't shy away from tough conversations. That makes all kinds of sense. But you know what? It's not David Ross who's going to win or lose a lot of games for the Cubs, because analytics does so much in the way of determining how games are constructed and how kind of assets, meaning people, are deployed. Ross is just going to be a presence there, and he can set the mood in the clubhouse, and he can hold people accountable for fundamental lapses, and we saw a gob of those this past year that you just can't have. I think it's going to be interesting to see how active the Cubs get in the offseason, how much turnover there is, and whether they decide that they need to deal some guys. And I think David Ross is going to have a say as to who he wants to manage and who he doesn't want to manage. And I think this is going to be an interesting offseason for the Cubs. Hamels almost certainly isn't coming back. See, you've got Quintana, you got Lester, maybe Chatwood, Hendricks in the starting rotation. Darvish, of course. Are you happy with those guys? I think you're happy with Darvish. I think you're happy with Hendricks. Lester is getting a little bit old. Didn't finish the season real strong this year. What was that, just serendipity and bad luck? Or was that, and by serendipity, I mean timing. It's this is going to be an interesting offseason because that bullpen is not built to win. And you got to figure that out. You could come back with the same 8 guys starting if you sign Castellanos to a free agent deal. If you've got Castellanos, Hayward, and Schwarber in the outfield, Bryant, Baez, you know what? Second base, I don't know. I hope it's not Addison Russell. That the Cubs continue to do business with this guy, I find abhorrent. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. The terror that he provided his wife it was so malicious and so malevolent. I don't know how you do business with a guy like that. I don't know how you justify paying that guy a lot of money for being not just the baseball player that he is, which is mediocre at best, but being a scurrilous and unpleasant human being. I wouldn't reward that kind of behavior with my millions if I was Tom Ricketts. I'd go to Theo and Jed and say, hey, we're done with this clown. I am not giving part of my family's fortune to that asshole. I'm just not going to do it. And so you guys figure it out. But come opening day, he is not going to be a Chicago Cub. I don't know why Ricketts didn't do it last year. I don't know why Ricketts hadn't done it to this point. I hope he does it this offseason. So there you go. David Ross is going to be a guy who has interface with the media, who talks to the players periodically. But the decisions that used to be kind of in the hands of a guy like Billy Martin or Earl Weaver or Leo DeRocher, these are decisions that are now being made by computers. So there you go. We, as always, hope for the best, fear the worst. This has been Sports, Nothing But Sports with Kent Sterling. And I got to tell you, it might have been my greatest of all time. Join me tomorrow morning, Facebook Live. It's Halloween week, so I wear costumes or electronically generated costumes. And as always, we have a whole lot of fun. And then that's at 8 in the morning. Then at 8:15, it's Breakfast with Kent on Periscope Live, where we also have an equivalent amount of fun, sans the costume. So there you go. I cannot wait to talk to you tomorrow morning at 8, brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best there is. Give him a call. Make an appointment. You will be so happy you did. Join me tomorrow morning, Breakfast with Kent.